Hey everybody, it's Pastor Brandon here. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully not going too mad staying at home. But all seriousness, we want you to know that we're praying for you, every single one of you, for your circumstances. We're praying for your home life. We're praying for your jobs and your financial situations. We're praying for those that are in school right now that teachers don't know how to homeschool that well. And they're just kicking your butt with all this work. So we're praying for every single one of you. It's easy for a lot of fear and worry and anxiety to come up when there's uncertainties going on and one person saying one thing, another person saying another. So hopefully this message will be a blessing to you, will bring peace, comfort, maybe some smiles along the way. But enough about that. Let's get straight into the message. So today we are going to be talking about the mind. Okay, we're going to be talking about the complexities of the mind and how it just, you're thinking about one thing 1 second and then you switch over and think about something the next. How some of us, it's hard for us to sleep because our mind keeps us up, while others like me, I could think myself to sleep. And the mind is very interesting and it tends to be different. Have you ever met somebody and you're like, I just want to know what goes in your head. Like, what goes on in that mind of yours? And we've seen different iterations of what could possibly go on, and a lot of it's just joking around, but it gets you thinking, right? Like, for example, Inside Out was a great movie where they expressed emotions and what goes on in the brain, right? I remember watching some cartoons growing up, and in the cartoons it would show what goes on like the dumb people's heads, and it's just the funniest thing ever just to kind of laugh. Like, I think about that one scene from SpongeBob where Patrick is like, the inner amalgamations of my mind. I'm gonna put that in right there. I'm gonna cut this part out because I want to show them that part. Yeah, that scene. So the mind can be very complex and it could be pretty scary. Some of us are too afraid to be alone with our own thoughts, so we're always listening to music or we're trying to keep ourselves distracted. Some of us, we're not really aware what goes on in our head, so we just work on autopilot. We just go, and someone's like, dude, did you not just see what you just did or what you said? And it's like, no, like you're kind of like, literally, you're shocked because you don't have any recollection of the thoughts or the actions prior to what just occurred. I remember when I was a kid, right? My imagination just took me places, and to this day still does, but I grew up and internet wasn't that big of a thing. It was starting to come up and getting a little bit bigger as time went, right? And being in a lower middle class kind of family, I didn't really have access to some of those things. But I would go outside and I would just let the world be my playground, and my imaginations would just take me. I would watch cartoons, watch my show, Saturday morning cartoons and stuff, right? And then I would go outside and just apply that imagination and information and put it out there in the world. And I'm climbing trees, pretending I'm some type of adventurer. I would ride my bike, pretending I'm on a motorcycle, and I would do these things, climb around. And when I was home, I loved my toys, and with my toys, I would get them and name them. And one of my favorite shows was actually Dragon Ball Z. So with my toys, I would pretend they were in a tournament, and I would have them fight each other. And I grew up playing fighting games, so it was just fight with my toys all the time. But not like just smashing them together. For some reason, I was very intentional, very articulate. Like, I would make them go in a certain pose to have them fight each other, right? And I would have my Legos and I would build buildings so my toys can just bash right through it. I had these Dr. Seuss books that I didn't really read, but I would use them to make, again, more scenery, more just battle damage, right? Just have my toys go out and just boom. I remember when I would get bored of that, I would make characters out of my Legos, naming my Lego characters and stuff, and I had Bionicles. And I would just, again, with my toys, I had this whole world. And that's why Toy Story is one of my favorite movies, because I was able to relate to that. There was this whole world that was occurring in my head, but I was able to project it right in front of me, right? There was a world that was going on in my head that I was able to project right in front of me. And I was so caught up in it, it felt so real. It felt so real. I remember when we would move to different apartments or different homes and stuff, and I would get excited, right? Because it was new territory for me to just traverse, new territory for me to climb and run. And I love seeing our new place because the blank canvas of the walls and just the carpet, my mind started going of what kind of furniture, what things to put, how I wanted my room set up. I have older siblings, but they're kind of way older, so I kind of grew up as if I was an only child since they were already out the house. for the most part. And my mom spoiled me. Mom and dad, they did spoil me. I'm sorry, Aixa, sorry, Angel. But they spoiled me with my room, and I had my own TV in my room. And I would play video games in there, and that was I loved my room setup. Like, even the bed sheets, like, my parents spoiled me. Like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bed sheets, Pokemon bed sheets, right? And I got so excited to how I was able to set that room up. But over time, you know, you get comfortable, right, with your house, your room, right? It just, new people come like, whoa, your house is nice, or they'll say something else. Hopefully they say the first thing. And you're like, it's all right, because you got comfortable, you got used to it. It's nothing new, it's nothing exciting anymore. Some of us, we love our home, and it's always exciting, right? And the thing is, you're probably wondering, right, how does this have anything to do with the mind? Pastor Brandon, you say we're talking about the mind, and you're going on about a nostalgic rant. Well, when I was praying and processing through this message on the mind, right, I asked some friends on what would be a good message to preach on. They talked about fear, anxiety, depression, things of that nature, and I didn't want to talk about it in a cliche way. And God gave me a really cool analogy, and he was saying the mind is like a home. The mind is like a house, like a mansion. And when you are first born, it's a blank house. It's pretty much a blank canvas. And as your mind develops, the architectural structures start to come into play. Rooms start being developed, right? And your personality, as your personality starts to show, the walls start getting a certain color to it. You either have wooden floors or carpet or tile. These things start to come. But just as the personality is shaped and formed and starts to appear, right, your character comes as well. And character is whether your AC works or doesn't. Character is if your door makes that creaky sound. Character is if your faucet runs properly, if there's mold growing on. The character is just the way the house is cleaned and kept. That is the character connection when it comes to the home, right? There's no such thing as a bad personality. There are some tendencies that can come off as bad, right? It's just personality clashes, to be honest. But it's the character that really makes a personality look bad, or makes a person look bad. It's one's character, and sin is what infects our character. There's 2 tips I want to talk to you guys about today when it comes to how can you prevent your mind from developing that mold? How can you prevent your mind from having the creaky doors, or from it just looking like a mess, and to prevent it from being a dump, right? But before we go there, I actually want to read to you the scripture that this message is going to be on today, and it's found in Romans 12, verse 2, and I'm going to read to you 2 different versions. Romans 12:2, the New King James Version says, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." All right, the New Living Translation version says, "Do not copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." So those are 2 different versions of Romans 12:2, 2 different translations. And the 2 tips I got for you, I'm saying 2 a lot. The 2 tips I got for you is take inventory. It's super important for every single one of us to take inventory of our minds, right? Because if you're just going about life in autopilot, your 5 senses is going to take in information and try to make sense of it. And because we have this need of love, we're made in the image of God, and He is love, right? Therefore, we're made to love and to receive it. And that's what everyone wants to crave. But we try to meet these real needs the wrong way, and it leads to sin. And so we have to really take inventory and see, how are we trying to go about meeting these authentic needs that we have? And you probably start developing these subconscious defenses to protect you, to protect those needs that you have, right? The need of feeling self-worth, right? To feel loved and appreciated. You probably reject people before they can reject you, right? Because you've been hurt from rejection. And so you develop this defense mechanism in your home, right? where there's turrets in your home or something, or security system or ring that you have going on in your house of your mind to protect you. When you take inventory, it's important to just walk around and check out, okay, is this system working properly, right? Is this defense system really helping me, or is it causing more damage? When you take inventory, when you inspect the home, you have to check everywhere. You really gotta check everywhere. And it can be very scary. It can be intimidating to check everywhere in your mind because of what you may find. Some of us, our minds have rooms that are locked, and are rooms that are secret rooms, right? And they're that way because we don't want to deal with what's in that room. Some of us, we don't even own our minds. Unfortunately, some of us may be demonically oppressed, or it seems like we're not in control, and it's like we gave the deed of our mind to something else, to someone else. And that's why it's important for us to take inventory. And you don't need to be afraid to take inventory, because God's with you, and we can trust him during this time when we take in that inventory in our brains to see who we are and what's really there. Because I feel a lot of times we wear our weaknesses as if it's us, like that defines us, that we are the label of our weakness, when that's not completely true, right? I'm not leg. I have a leg, but that does not mean I am leg. I'm branded. When I think about taking inventory, what comes to mind is when I was in college and I was in SCU housing. So when I was in SCU housing, we would do house checks every Monday, and someone would come through with I can't even remember the word, a checklist, let's just say that, a checklist, and they would go and they would make sure the beds were made, the floor was clean, the living room was clean, the bathroom, all these different things. And then once a month, we did a deep clean, an extensive clean. And during that deep, extensive clean, it would be frustrating and tiring because we weren't used to doing it on a regular basis, or we would get distracted. And it's easy for us to get distracted when we're doing inventory, when we're inspecting our minds. And I really urge you that when you take a second and you take a moment to really inspect, take a list of what are some things about you that you're probably not too happy of, some thoughts or things that you're struggling with mentally. Don't get distracted by like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, your friends' texts. There's a lot of people out there that you're gonna fail in life because you get a text message that pulls you away from your responsibilities. And you have to, and that's something that you can take note of. If it happens, just take note of that you easily get distracted, right? Distractions can really cause damage, can genuinely get in the way, right? You know, okay, the faucet isn't working in my mind, but then you get distracted so you never get to it. Or I know I gotta clean the living room of my mind, but you get distracted. Something pulls you aside, and it's because there's these things living in your mind that are these urges pulling you in these different directions, and it interrupts what you need to do. The urge to smoke pulls you out of conversations with people or genuine moments and memories that could be created because I gotta smoke. So you leave, you exit, right? Or the urge, a lustful urge pulls you away from, again, another opportunity that you could have had, but you won't really know because you let these things just pull and take you and choose what you're gonna do in your life. They make those decisions for you. It's almost as if you don't have free will. So my first tip was take inventory. All right, do you suffer from depression, anxiety? What are the triggers, right? And the second tip I have for you is trust God. I mentioned it before. You got to trust God. Take a moment, take a second to just invite him in. See, Jesus is going to knock on the door of your mind, but he's a gentleman. So he's not going to bust his way in. Demons, demonic spirits, all that, they don't care. And a lot of the times you don't realize it. You're leaving that front door open of your mind to allowing these things to just come on in to wreak havoc. And that's why you have sleep issues at night. That's why you're hearing things and seeing things. That's why these urges, these fleshly urges are so strong, because you're just letting things come in and out of your mind like it's nobody's business. You let people's words carry more weight. Imperfect human people's words carry more weight than the living God who created the universe, who created you and knows you more than your classmate, that knows you more than that one friend or that random celebrity. And so we have to be careful when trusting people. We need to trust God foremost above anything else, and test Him. When you're trusting Him, you're testing Him in a sense, right? You trust Him, but a lot of us quit early. We trust God, like say we trust God, and because He didn't show up exactly when we think He should show up, you're not real, you're fake, where are you, God? And we get frustrated. But it seems like we have more patience for the people that treat us wrong. We have more patience for that abusive friend. No, they'll come around, right? Or that abusive boyfriend or girlfriend, like, they're just going through something. We make all these excuses for man, but we never make excuses for God, which God doesn't need the excuse, but we never defend God, which in Himself He doesn't need the defense, but you know where I'm getting at. So we need to take inventory. Where does our mind take us? How do we operate? How do we process? Do we have the creaky door? Can the door close properly, right? The front door close properly? Does the floor need to be replaced in our mind? And then invite God in. He will come and He'll start fixing things. And it's not about fixing. I want to use that word carefully. It's about renovating, renewing your mind. God will come, Jesus will come and help renew your mind so it can be the best version of you, so that you can be in your head. It's your dream home, right? Where you're thinking positive, you're not overwhelmed with fear, you're not easily angered, right? And you have wisdom and knowledge that you can just drop on people to help bring that peace over to them. And I know it's going to be a challenge and it's a mission. It will. I don't want to lie to you. It's going to take a lot. At the end of the day, though, you're going to have to account for yourself. You're going to have to speak up for yourself. I can be here preaching to you guys, ministering to you, and you can give me this amen. Some of you probably already clocked out because something distracted you, whether it was a video game or text or something. And that's just on you. And I really am hoping and praying that those distractions didn't get in the way. I'm really hoping and praying that you're heeding the words coming out of my mouth, and they're not just my words, they're God's words. I pray that God would just speak through me and that this would just really impact you. So I would love to encourage you to do two things. One, take inventory, right? Write a list of things. You don't have to share this with people if you don't want to. If you do, share with someone that can keep you accountable and someone that won't judge you and can love on you. And then the second thing is trust God. And trusting God, I want you to write a letter to Him. Go and write a letter of invitation. All right, a letter to God. Journal it. Write in your notes on your phone, whatever you want. Write it in a Word document, saying, Jesus, I invite you into my house. I have all these issues that I'm aware of, and there's probably more that I'm not aware of, and there's things that I don't want to touch because I'm too scared to go in the basement of my mind. So I need you to come, Lord, and help me clean up my home. God, I need you to help renew my mind so I can just receive your love and have that dream home, to be the best version of myself, to be who you've called me to be and not what the world tells me to be. So I just want to thank you all so much for listening right now. I want to thank God for this opportunity to be able to still minister to you despite us having to stay at home. Hopefully this message was encouraging. Remember, take inventory, trust God. Take a moment after this message to really just do a simple prayer. Set an alarm if you can't go ahead and do that letter. Just please set yourself up for victory. All right, guys, so we love you. Thank you so much, and God bless.